Thank you for everybody for coming out. I'd like to thank everybody on behalf of Casa Ruby's board and their staff, their clients, for coming and supporting us. This is Casa Ruby's second anniversary, and as you know, Casa Ruby services about anywhere from 150, 160 clients per week on almost no staff. So it's very important that we not only recognize but also support Casa Ruby and the awardees today, because the awardees today help Casa Ruby do the work that she needs to do in the community, along with all the volunteers who help out. Ruby?
It's been many years since I left the stages. I used to perform and be right in front of the audiences, entertaining, because I used to do shows. But now I do something different. And what I do really has a lot more meaning than what I used to do many years ago. So I want to thank everyone for being here tonight, because really our celebration today, it's about that. It's about celebrating that we have kept the doors open for 2 years. And I wanted to begin with two different things, but I will come back. First, I want to say thank you. And thank you for not only being here, but being part of Casa Ruby. We are going to start today with a very significant blessing. As Casa Ruby opened its doors in June, we started building partnerships that sometimes never existed. And one of our partnerships has been with Metropolitan Community Church, and particularly the Bilingual ministry. I call it ministry because really, this is a new part. Sometimes a lot of healing needs to take place. I have given a lot of speeches through the years, and there were times where I didn't know what I was going to say. I just let myself go with the moment and go with the flow, and depending on what happened. Most of my speeches began at a time where the transgender community was what I call living a huge moment of crisis. It was early in the 2000s where there was a lot more violence than today. And my speeches were very, very, very emotional, because we had to basically celebrate the lives of those we have lost. Today, I actually want to start just my speech, because it is a speech, and I want to talk about investment. Each and every one of you that is here is part of that investment that our city is making to better the lives of people that for decades have been forgotten, have been disposed, have been neglected, have been discriminated, have been abused, have been hurt, have been killed. And that investment makes it possible that today we celebrate 2 years of a dream that began many, 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 many years ago. On paper, actually, we are 10 years old. The agency was incorporated with DC government in 2004. And in 2006, we received our 501c3. But at that moment of crisis, I and others spent a lot of time picking up bodies, healing wounds, basically making sure that people were safe. But in the last 2 years, life has changed. And life has changed because it needed to change. Washington, D.C. is the most progressive city when it comes to social justice. It is one of the most progressive cities where we acknowledge that people exist. But also, it is also the city where I believe a huge part of the transgender movement in this country began. And I believe that together, the transgender community, we have created a blueprint that now helps a lot of other places that want to create change for trans people. Many years ago, we celebrated with Dana Byers and others our first Transgender Day of Remembrance. It was really cold. It was extremely cold that day, but we were there remembering the lives of those that we have lost to violence. Then we moved on, and at the time that Wanda Alston became the first person to lead the Office of LGBT Affairs, we basically started creating change at the DMV. We allowed, through Wanda's leadership, the option that people could have the right gender on their ID. And I remember one time I called Wanda on the cell phone, and I said, Wanda, they want to kick me out of the DMV. And she said to me, Ruby, do not move. I don't know how this woman got from 13th in Pennsylvania, but in less than 5 minutes, she was at the DMV in downtown, and I didn't get kicked out. I didn't walk out of the building with my ID that day, but I walked out with hope. And ever since, we worked to bring justice, to bring policies, to bring a different reality for trans people in our city. But it was not enough. It was definitely not enough. And through the years, we have done so much. And we turned this city from what it was known to be one of the worst cities to live in this country for trans people. And now we're making it one of the friendliest and most welcoming cities for trans people. For those of you who are here and probably don't know much about me, I am a transgender woman, and I'm very open about it because that is who I am. That is my identity. And I made it my business to talk about my story first. So many years ago, I began telling people how my life was so difficult. In 2003, I remember a professor from the University of Berkeley in California came and did an interview with me. And I talked about how I was suffering because a lot of my sisters, mostly sisters and brothers, but mostly sisters were being killed, sexually abused, and they were being hurt on the streets of DC. I don't talk a lot about that these days, but I do talk about that investment that we need to make in places that are welcoming to the transgender community. Now we do have organizations that are leading the way because one agency, Casa Ruby, cannot do it all. That investment has allowed for other groups to provide services, for government agencies to say, we are going to address the needs of this population. And that investment begins when people come together and they acknowledge that there is a need. When people come together and they speak up, whether it is on their cell phone, whether it is on their Facebook, which has become very popular, whether it is at the club, we must speak up. We must tell the stories of those people that today don't have access to opportunities. And that is where I want to lead this conversation. And what I want to say to all of you, and what I want to share is that Casa Ruby opened on June 6, 2012. And I believe I made the first investment because I have received my check from Social Security 4 years before, or 2 years before. I have fallen to homelessness as the result of a rape and a sexual assault, and someone attacked me so bad that he left me for dead, but I was not supposed to die. And I made that investment when I got my check and I started looking for places. And when I started and I found a place that I felt comfortable, right on Georgia Avenue, in Harvard, in Gresham, it's right in between, I knew something was going to happen. So I signed a list for $1,500 on the first floor. And within the first 6 months, actually within 3 months, I was forced to rent the second level because we couldn't fit downstairs and we needed to have privacy for clients to meet with volunteers that were helping them. Within 6 months, we really couldn't fit there anymore because a lot of people were coming and we were celebrating birthdays. And we were having celebrations and people were coming to the support groups and they wanted to meet at Casa Ruby, so I went and I made the decision to rent the third floor. And someone else made an investment, and that was my landlord. He said, you know what, take the key and you pay me when you have the money. Today I'm caught up with him. He actually he forgot a debt that we had early on, $24,000. He said, I believe in what is happening here. He's an immigrant from Africa. And I remember when he came the first time, he said, Ruby, the neighbors are complaining. And I said, oh my God, I freaked out, remember? And he said, they're complaining because there's a lot of parties going on here and they don't get invited. So I was like, oh, yes. So, and miracles started happening because other people were investing. And what I want to say before I close, because I'm learning to make my speeches brief, the investments don't always have to come in the form of money. You can invest in the transgender community, in the Latino LGBT community, in the African American community, in the people of color community, in all of the communities that are affected by homophobia and transphobia, simply by speaking up against what is wrong. The investment that I made paid off. Because today, last week we got word that we got funded by one of our that we got approved one of our proposals with the Department of Health. So our budget for this year is probably going to be very close to $150,000, which is not bad for an agency. And that investment is paying off. Now Caprice can go and get her nails done. Now Dana can actually receive a real paycheck. Dante can also get some money so he can go to the store. And as of next month, I will no longer be on disability. I will start getting a paycheck. And I know that Casa Ruby has taken off. When I knew that we got approved for that grant, I cried. And I went home and I cried with my hubby, who's here. And I cried so hard because for the first time in 4 years, I felt normal. I felt normal because I am going to receive a paycheck for my work. I am going to possibly have access to health insurance. I am going to be able to go back and pay taxes. So when I do grow old, I can not only receive a disability check, but I can receive that retirement check. And it is that because one investment that I made. And I want to ask everyone, please invest in the transgender community, because like me, there are many people out there who deserve an opportunity. I have a list of about 20 resumes of trans men and women who want to come and work at Casa Ruby so bad. One of them came to work with us through the late part of October, November, December, and we ran out of money. And I just got word that she was involved in a really bad incident this past weekend. And she's on the run. This is a child that I know for 8 years. And I broke down yesterday because I love this child. I believe if I and this organization would have had the resources, she would have been doing what she wanted to do, and that is work for her community. And I dream of the moment that a trans person walks into this organization and takes my seat. I really do. It is a dream that I have. And it gets a little harder now, because I do see some of them that have so much potential. And I know if I had the opportunity, oh my God, am I dreaming? Jen Richards from out of town, so I had to do that because I love this girl. She's doing amazing things in the United States for trans people. But I want to tell each and every one of you that we must invest. Currently, there's 24 trans women in detention at DC jail, mostly arrested for survival sex work. They should not be in DC jail. They should be at work in DC government, in nonprofit sector, in for-profit sector. So as I stand off and we move on with the program, I just want to ask one thing. Help me invest in the transgender community. Help me. It doesn't only take money. It takes coming together, supporting organizations and programs that are trying to lift the transgender community. So that investment began 2 years ago financially, and I know we are going to be investing. I want to acknowledge, because it takes a lot of change. We had Muriel Bowser today. This is a city full of politics. She was here. That's an investment. She invested her time, and I'm not promoting whoever wins is going to win, but I will tell you one thing. When you come from where I come from, when no one showed up when we were running the streets, to see someone here at a transgender event means a lot. So I want to say thank you to all of you. We are going to move on to basically move on to a celebration, and we're going to give 6 awards today. These are our first ever. And it is a thank you for others that, like me, have invested in the transgender community. It is a thank you, because all it takes to create change is to be part of that change. And these individuals have been part of that change. These individuals invested their time, invested their voice, invested their talent to come to Casa Ruby when we needed it the most. I am going to go in chronological order because that is really how it happened. 2 summers ago, I reunited with someone that I admired when I was growing up because she had made her transition in the early 90s. Oh yeah. Okay. We have our special guest who is the person responsible for me in the transgender community to have some dignity by introducing the gender identity and gender expression bill at a time when people didn't understand it. And I'm sure he probably didn't understand it, but he said yes. And that bill has changed the life of trans people in our city in ways that you have no idea. There was a time when all we knew was killings and beatings. And thanks to these men, we were given dignity in the eyes of the law. Thanks to these men, we were allowed, and it allowed people like me to walk into a place and say, you are wrong because you're discriminating, and the law says so. You know how powerful that is? I know sometimes I didn't like his songs because he sung a lot of songs to me. But I will tell you one thing that I will never forget. Like I told him just a few months ago. You stood with us, Jim. You really have through the years. You have seen everything that we have gone through. So I want to introduce someone to all of you that is very important to us in the trans community. Jim Graham, representative from Ward 1.
So I take it you don't want me to sing tonight. Huh? It's a great song. It's a great song. It's a great song. It's one of my favorite songs, but perhaps there's more meaning read into this than I intended. I won't sing tonight, but I am here to congratulate Casa Ruby on all of its fine work. I was introduced to the trans community, I don't know how long ago. It was a long time ago because, you know, I was the executive director of the Whitman Walker Clinic, and we had programs that worked with trans people. And we had also a sensitivity to the whole issue because of HIV and AIDS. This group of people were very, very hard hit, very early on, very, very hard hit. And I just want to say one other thing, and I know there are political complexities here, and so I don't want to wander too far, but I do want to say that the money that Whitman Walker Clinic had in its earliest years came from performances by artists who were in one stage or another. And I think this was very special to me, that whole introduction. So I was very proud. It's been over 10 years, I think. I was the author of the bill that made it illegal in the District of Columbia to discriminate against people on the basis of their trans status, and added this category to the Human Rights Act. And I've been thinking a little bit, I'm not going to go on any length of time, but I've been thinking I'm not going to be here next year in this role. I'll be here next year as your supporter, though, Ruby. But I've been thinking about some of the things that have mattered the most to me in the 16 years that I've been a council member. I was a little late tonight because I was with DC General Family Shelter Families and the horrendous situation that they have. It made me late for this event, but I had to go there as well. But certainly one of the things is all of the work that we did on the Human Rights Act. Because this city is way ahead in the most enlightened way. And we should be way ahead. Why shouldn't we be way ahead? And we should be spending more money, by the way. You know, for a city that's flush with cash, every time my colleagues say with great pride that we have $1 billion in the savings account, as if this is something we should be, oh my God, isn't this incredible, it's wonderful. You know, that's not my attitude toward public funds that are desperately needed for human purposes. You know, none of your groups should be struggling the way you're struggling. And it's just that simple because of the important purposes that you're serving. But that's my little political message, Ruby. I'm going to stop. I ain't going to sing the song. But I'm going to say I'm very proud of each and every one of you because you demonstrate one of the most important lessons in life. And I have learned this over time. And that is you are who you are. And you are uncompromisingly who you are. And all of us need to be who we are in the same fashion and with the same strength and passion. Thank you all very much. Thank you. I really planned on staying longer at this event, but I have 2 dogs in the car. And the first police officer, there it is, is going to issue me a ticket. And so it's too hot for dogs to be in the car, so forgive me, won't you?
And Jim, you marked our presence. Your presence is in our lives every time we walk into the DMV, anytime we walk into a government agency and we can get insurance, anytime we can actually be acknowledged, and you were the person who began it all for us. So being here is just a little part of it. Yes, so thank you. And I'm going to go back to the first person that actually came and said, I will support this. And we have decided to create a dedicated service award. Because in order to create change, there has to be dedication. And there has to be people that believe in something and they go and do it. This person, we actually reunited 2 summers ago because she transitioned early in the 90s and she was like fully transitioned. I was still wearing my wigs, I still was wearing my towels around me to create hips, and I will see her because she had gone on hormones, so she has done the transition fully. And when we reunited, I told her about this dream called Casa Ruby. And because she knows the reality of trans people in our city, because she lived there herself, she said, I will be the #1 supporter. And that is what it took. Every Monday, when we were sitting down, the first thing actually that happened that really thrilled me is that we were choosing the color to paint the agency. And I was just ready to open and just have the walls just anyway. And she said, oh no, we are not just going to have an organization looking like this. We are going to get in the cart and we're going to go and buy paint. And she didn't take me to Home Depot. She took me to Wisconsin Avenue, and she bought polo paint because that was one of the few colors that we could find. And she did not hesitate to make the investment that I was talking to you about. And every Monday, she will take me to Costco and buy food for my clients. Before we were able to secure a contract for food, my clients were eating great food. We were no longer having chips and salsa. which are delicious. She will take me and drive across the river, and she not even once told me, that's too much, Ruby. I put a limit. Every Monday she came in on her day off, and she sat and ate with us. And she will go on the second floor and mentor the new generation and talked about her story. And she became so engaged that her advocacy went to a next level, and she became part of the Trans Respect campaign with the DC government. And she has been speaking, and she has been investing her time so trans people have a different option these days. So when you talk about dedication to the transgender community, the first award that we give, and that she will receive later on, is to CONSUELA LOPEZ, my sister, for dedicating your time, for dedicating your resources to us. So today we can celebrate 2 years. I don't want to forget, she was the director of the Trans Beauties Calendar, first major fundraiser, which raised almost $10,000. And she is now leading with Tyler our second year calendar. So talk about dedication. Do you want to give us just a few words? Because the mayor is about to come, and I don't like to see you cry.
It's okay. Thank you so much, Ruby. Thank you. Thank you. I want to start by saying, first, this award means so much to me, but to be honest, I would not be here if it wasn't for Ruby, because Ruby was the person who basically showed me the way. She was the, she was the person that basically gave me the opportunity that I needed to be able to grow and be able to give back to my community. And the one thing I want to say, Ruby, is that it makes me feel so good and so proud to be here, standing on this, podium, accepting this award, saying that, girl, I was there when it was just a dream, and I'm so happy for you. I'm proud of you. You are someone that I look up to. And, and I just want to wish you the best. And I think that Casa Ruby, as you said, Casa Ruby is not just going to be in D.C., it's going to go worldwide. And I believe that because the transgender community needs that. And again, she said something very important, is that I lived that life. It's not that I don't know what I'm talking about. I was there. I was there with my sisters who were getting murdered. And I say this all the time, 60% of my friends are no longer here. The one girl that there's two people in here that I have to acknowledge, which is KAPRICE and my sister Keisha, who is also in the Trans Respect campaign, because she was 15 and I was 17. And we grew up together, and we've been there. We struggled. We fought the fight. And again, to see, like she said, a transgender event, and to have all these people, and to have police officers here, political officials, people from different agencies just being more accepted. Wow. Because again, I transitioned in 1992. That was a long time ago. And look where we've come. So congratulations again to the other winners. I am so happy again to be a part of this event tonight. And Ruby, again, thank you for everything. Okay? Love you. Take a picture. Look, we're going to take a picture. I'm a picture girl.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, CONSUELA. Someone else who has touched the life of Casa Ruby in many ways that seems sometimes not even credible is someone that I met over a year and a half ago. She came to our project as a client, And she came to work with us as part of Project Empowerment, the first transgender program in the city for trans populations, created by the DC government. And after her time was up, she said, I cannot go, Ruby. I must stay here and be part of this dream. And I said, Caprice, I don't have a paycheck. I don't have financial means to give you. And I said, but I want you to know that I need you to be here. And I couldn't say no, because she shared this dream with me, with CONSUELA, with the rest of us. And I often joke about her age, 51 years old. She's a little older than me. But I will tell you one thing, our stories are very similar. She's very fast. She knows this city like no one else because she's been part of this city. She runs the streets like me. Sometimes I'm faster because I told her I had to cross a border, and I'm like, bitch, I can be fast. So we're always together. And she has dedicated 24 hours of the day with no salary. She now gets a little stipend, and when I mean little, it does cover her nails, which she loves gold nails. But a more important investment that she has made in this community, she has a lot of kids, a lot of sons, gay daughters. She has kids. And every day, and I really mean every day, because I can call her at any time, and she will be there. She has embraced Casa Ruby, and it's her own. I've always tell her, you need to own this, because for trans people, and for many people, we are not guaranteed another day. But I know if something happened to me, this dream will go on. There was one time we joked about, because she was driving a little fast, and I said, Caprice, I'm not ready to go. And then she said, well, I'll go first because I was going to get hit. And I said, well, honey, if you get hit, I'm going to grab your cell phone and I'm going to text me that in memory of Caprice, you want all donations to go to the Casa Ruby shelter. And she taught me to be a better person. She taught me to be a very aware person. And I just want to say, Caprice Williams, come here, that you are our next awardee of the evening. Because just like me, you have made an investment in this community. And I love you, with all my heart, you know that.
I love you too, Luke. You want to say a few words? Yes. I thank you all for coming, and my mother's here, and it's really, really a good experience. And I never thought I'd be here this long in this organization with no pay. Oh, picture that. But she had a dream. When I met her, she told me, I'd love to work with you. I told her I'd give you 10 years of my life. When I turn 60, I don't know what I'll be doing, if I have any teeth or hair left, whatever, but I'm going to be here. You know? So you got me. You stuck with me. I'm not going nowhere, no matter what we go through. I love you, Ruby.
Love you too. Well, this is very meaningful because I know somewhere down the line we will remember these days. This is really what it means. I want to invite someone that has been with our movement, because Casa Ruby is not just an organization, it's a movement. It's a movement of people in the struggle. It's a movement of people who believe that people who struggle need a way out, and they support that. And Dr. Dana Bayer has been just that. She has believed, and she's been there with us in this city from day one. And I want to introduce her because she has been with us. And we are going to give her next award, and she's going to talk about the person whose name has this award, because it's someone very special, and just give us a few words. Dr. Dana Bayer.
Thank you, dear. Thank you, Ruby. I've been very fortunate to work changing the legislative and legal landscape for our community, but that work has only one purpose: to make your work easier, because you touch people physically and emotionally and spiritually 24/7. That's where it really, really matters. The accomplishment for which I'm most proud was helping to rewrite the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, which declassified being transgender as a mental illness. Those of you who are old enough may remember in 1973 when the American Psychiatric Association did that to homosexuality. That powered the gay rights movement. That's why we are where we are today. We just did that for trans people under gender identity. It's now called gender dysphoria last year. That not only has an impact on people in transition, it has an impact in our culture. I don't know if some of you here know that this week Time magazine had Laverne Cox on the cover. That was a very historic moment in our history. But yesterday, the Chicago Sun-Times published an op-ed by a fellow from the National Republic who denied that Laverne was a woman. He completely misgendered her and was very offensive. That op-ed was removed today by the editor-in-chief of the Chicago Sun-Times, who said, while we are open to free speech, to dialogue, we want communications, we want people to deal with provocative and controversial issues, because the American Psychiatric Association has said that Laverne Cox is a woman, and other trans women like her are women, and trans men are men, I cannot allow this to appear in my newspaper. So that was removed. This is why change, even in a field that might be a little tangential to what we're doing, to what you may be doing, has a huge impact on people's lives. As a physician and as a surgeon, it's my honor to give the Ally Award, which is named after a very close friend of mine who passed away last year, Dan Massey, married to another good friend of everybody in this room, Allison Gardner. This is the Ally Award that it's my pleasure to give to my physician, friend, and colleague at the Kaiser healthcare system. He is on a crusade, literally, to make Kaiser, which is the nation's largest HMO, trans-friendly, trans-accepting, trans-inclusive, trans-competent, trans-everything. He is dedicated to this almost as intensely as Ruby is dedicated to her clients and her family. So it is my honor to give the award, which I don't have in my hands, to my friend, Dr. Ted Atad.
I can stand, yes. Hi, I'm Ted. So I am a doctor at Kaiser Permanente. I met Ruby about a year ago, and I wondered if she knew if I was going to stick around, but I have. And I just want to say, I'm honored to be given this award by Dana, another physician, and honored to have Ruby actually and Dana both be my mentors. I think we've all had this situation in our lives where we've seen people not treated well and felt helpless afterwards in our youth, in our younger years, and it's just great now. As I say, once they give you the 2 letters after your name, they can't take them away. So we're going to make sure that everyone is covered in every health system across the U.S., and I think we're going to get there in the next 1 to 2 years, if not sooner. So thank you.
And I wanted to share a little more about the Dan Massey, and it's actually the Massey's Award. Another of our early supporters was Dan Massey and Allison Gardner, who actually will come to Casa Ruby early on, and actually prior to us opening. And they supported us financially. Even one time when I was so busy, I forgot to pay the electric bill. And it was the first time our electricity got cut off. And somehow I walked in Casa Ruby, and it was dark, and it had rain, and it was flooded, and Allison called me. And as soon as I heard her voice, I broke down again like I had done before in other circumstances. And she said to me, "What's wrong?" And I said, "We're in the dark, and our electricity got cut off." And she said, "Give me the number, give me the account number." And to make the long story short, she paid it on as I was on the phone, and the electricity was on the same day. But what was more remarkable and why this award goes to an ally is because Dan Massey was diagnosed with cancer and passed in a matter of weeks. I was in Chicago for Creating Change, promoting the organization. And I was told that Dan had passed. And one of his wishes was that he didn't want flowers. He said, "I want every donation to go to Casa Ruby." And I think about that. What an ally. That when you are ready to go, you believed in us so much. So to Dan, whatever you are, to Allison, who's in New York, this is for you. And to Ted, who I met a year ago and has done incredible work, including fundraisers for Casa Ruby, I just want to say one thing. I did know that you were going to be around, because you could have given up last year when a lot of people didn't want you to be supporting trans people. Trans people didn't want that. And you've been here. So from our heart at Casa Ruby, thank you for being one of the biggest allies. And talking about allies, talking about supporters, talking about people who created change, and another person who has invested in the transgender community, just like CONSUELA, just like KAPRICE, just like Ted, just like the Massey's. Another person who invested in the transgender community of this city is someone that we now not call an ally. I really call him part of our family. This man was the first one that I ever heard mention the word transgender at an international AIDS conference in Washington, D.C. This man is the first elected official that actually I ever heard say to an entire audience, if you don't like trans people and you're not willing to respect and give dignity to trans people, move out of the city. This is the same man that when he won election, he said, "Yeah, you can have a meeting with us." And we didn't know, or we believed that at that point, there were no trans people working in DC government out of 32,000 employees. And these men listened to us. And within the last 3 years, we now have 4 that he actually improperly hired because he's the big boss. And there's many more that have been appointed to special posts. But I will have to say that the most important investment that he has made is in Casa Ruby. He knows. It didn't take me long to understand how much this man gets this. You know how sometimes politicians pose for the picture? They do, especially in this city. But after an event, 2 years ago, a group of trans people went to a celebration at HRC. No, it was not at HRC, it was next door at the Sumner School. And, you know, he's always with bodyguards. And when everybody was leaving, all of the trans people that we were walking tried to get in the elevator. And the security said, they have to get out. The mayor is coming there. And he said, no, they don't have to get out. And he said, come on, girls. And we all got in the elevator together. Do you know what investment that is in our dignity? Do you know how proud I have been all of this time? And all of us to know that there is someone that gets it. The first employment graduation of Project Empowerment, he was there and, you know, just like any other elected official. But when he left, he came back. And he said, you thought I was leaving you, right? And he gave every person that was graduating who was transgender a ticket to go to the Verizon Center suite. Do you know how many times trans people have been in that suite? Probably not many. And this was lots of people that went in. So I want to say that we're very sad. I am very sad that, you know, you're moving on to big and better things. But I want to say that all of this time, you made an impact in our life. And I must say that, you know, these days, I believe in the higher power a lot more. And I believe that the blood that our sisters and brothers have actually paved on the streets of this city, the same streets that you and I walk on, you honor our dead. Because you help the living, and you have done more than any elected politician in history, but you honor the living. You honor those people that are no longer here. This man really has never been ashamed to post on a picture with us. He's never been ashamed. So it is my pleasure, and it is my honor, and it is my thank you to introduce Vince Gray.
Thank you very much, Ruby, for such a nice introduction. And you can keep on going if you wish. Let me say good evening to everybody. I'm delighted to be here. I would just change one thing. I would not say that it's that I've not been ashamed. I would say I've been proud to be able to be with you all and to be able to see justice come to this city in a way that has been denied for so long. It is time for things to change, ladies and gentlemen. And Ruby mentioned an event, an incident that we had in which I convened a meeting in my office. And I invited a number of trans people to come, some of whom are in this room tonight, some of whom aren't. And I think folks came with kind of two sets of feelings. The first set of feelings was maybe there was some reason to be hopeful, but I think there was an overwhelming feeling to be skeptical also, because there have been so many false starts. I also want to thank Sterling Washington and Amy Loudermill for being here tonight. They have done such a fantastic job with our Office of LGBT Affairs, and remind me to come back to our Saturday event, because I want an extended invitation to folks to be with us on Saturday. But Sterling and Amy, I want to thank you all for what you all do every day to help us fulfill the promises that we make here in the District of Columbia. In any event, we had a meeting, and the purpose of that meeting was to talk about employment. Remember that, Ruby? Let's talk about employment. And I had the DOES director come. I had Sterling's predecessor, Jeff Richardson, come. And I had the then director, Gustavo Velasquez, from the Office of Human Rights to come, because I wanted everybody in the room when we had this conversation. Right, Monica? Monica, of course, is now our director of OHR. In any event, yeah. You all didn't know that? We're proud of that. In any event, we had quite a discussion, and I said, you know, at the end of the meeting, as we were getting towards the end of the meeting, I said, you know what? We're going to have a program up and running in 30 days because people are tired of waiting. It's the right thing to do, and we're going to move to make this happen. And what that led to was what Ruby talked about before, and that was a program and project empowerment as a part of DOES. I don't know how many people we had in that first group, but we had a graduating class that included everybody who started. And we work now to be able to try to make sure people get jobs. And I'm proud of the fact that we've gone from 0 to 4. I'm proud we're not at 0. I'm not proud that we're only at 4. Because there's more that we can do and more that we will do in this city in order to be able to be a city that we can feel good about. There's so many things that I could cite that I feel good about at this stage, like the employment program and getting people jobs, you know, reestablishing the LGBT advisory committee, working to get these impact statements from the U.S. Attorney's Office to try to be able to establish when people have been the subject of acts of hate. The campaign that we established, remember that, CONSUELA? The campaign we did, it was a mover. Yeah, that's right, Trans Respect. We launched that campaign one night up in the 2000 block of 14th Street. We had a great event that night, and we're now trying to figure out how we get some additional money to be able to make sure we continue with it, because one effort is never going to be enough. It is a start, and that's exactly what we've done. I'm also really proud of what we've been able to do with our insurance programs in the District of Columbia. Some of you will remember that a few months ago we made an announcement that we were going to do something about what we call gender dysphoria in the District of Columbia, or it is, I'll use the word, transformation. And we've made sure our Medicaid program will pay for surgeries that people in which they may wish to engage. And we've required other commercial insurance companies that do business in the District of Columbia to do the same thing, which I know has opened the door to people now, doors that otherwise were closed. So I'm proud of what we've been able to do, and I also recognize that we have a lot of work yet to do in the District of Columbia. We have marriage equality now in the District of Columbia. I was proud to be the chair of the council when we did that. That was now, seemed like 90 years ago. That was in December of 2009, and that was what now? This will be the 5th anniversary this year, won't it? We need to have a big celebration for that one. In any event, I will, I'm going to be here doing stuff no matter what. And I am a friend, and I'm an advocate, and I don't need a job title in order to be able to do that. So you can count on me. You can count on me to do whatever is valuable, whatever is important, to be able to move along the cause of respect, dignity, and decency in the District of Columbia. And we can never be a complete city until those who want to be who they are have an opportunity to be able to do that without the interference of other people in this city. I know we're further along than most cities, but we're not where we need to be. And we're going to continue to work in order to make that happen. I want to come to one of these events where if we have it at Edison Place, there won't be enough room in this room for people to get in. And not just people who are trans themselves, but all people who support dignity and respect for everybody, because that's what we need to be about. Now, I want to present a letter to Ruby of extending my congratulations on this second anniversary. And by the way, I was at the first anniversary last year. we were up on Georgia Avenue, right? Yes. So, as mayor of the District of Columbia, it is my extraordinary pleasure to extend greetings on behalf of the 400. Whoa, we got a lot more people than that. 647,000 people who live in the District of Columbia. The numbers are growing by 1,000 to 1,200 every month. We are a city on the move. We are a city on the grow. And we are getting it done, ladies and gentlemen. And again, we can be a complete city when we have reached the stage where we can say that there's a place for everybody in the city who wants to be here. So, Ruby, I am glad to present this to you on behalf of all of these folks to honor the second anniversary of Casa Ruby and to thank you especially for your work in reaching out. I know you do a lot of this at great personal sacrifice. That is not about money for you. It's about doing something that's going to make a difference. I go to so many meetings where you're there. You were at our budget town hall meetings this year, and I want you to know how much I appreciate what you do, and I look forward to continuing to work with you in the future. Thank you all very much, ladies and gentlemen. Please join us on Saturday.
It may seem, everyone, that this is not a big deal because we're used to seeing a mayor under Casa Ruby, but I will tell you there are places in the world where there are politicians, where there are mayors, where there are presidents that will not even mention the word transgender. This is big, everyone. It is really big to be able to be transgender of color and to sit right next to the mayor receiving this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to say that the investment continues, and our next award is for an entity. Because just like people have invested in Casa Ruby in the transgender community of Washington, D.C., there is also a special entity then when they were called to help us with our strategic plan that develop what our agency will be focusing on. Hello, I know we have to go, but I really need to focus on this. This entity had a lot of applications to support work in the community. This agency, this entity, it's not an agency, it's an entity, met with us several times, and they basically learned about probably a new population and a new effort in our city to bring social justice. And I was afraid that they will not take on our project. But I knew after several meetings that just like people have invested in the transgender community, that change had come to an entity to invest. This next award goes to the Georgetown Law Community Justice Project for having helped Casa Ruby develop our strategic plan for 2014. And there's two people that I actually cried with when we met several times, because that was such an important thing to do. In order for us to grow as an agency, it doesn't only take the desire to want to do this work, we have to be able to prove to funders, to people, that we're serious and that we know what we are doing. So when Georgetown Law said, yes, we will take on this project, we got more than what we deserve. We got 4 students who gave everything for this project, and they were mentored by Colleen and everybody and everyone in the Community Justice Project. And today, we can walk into any agency and tell them about how capable we are of doing the work that needs to be done. And I will never forget when we got the final report and they did all of this analysis of needs and who can do the work. There was something in the report that said that the mere fact that Casa Ruby exists is what this city needs to create change. So I just want to thank both of you and the students, because you really changed and moved our lives to the next level as an organization. A lot of people support Ruby, but you supported Casa Ruby, which is an entire community in a movement. Thank you so much. Now I can smile. I can definitely smile. Would you like to give us just a few words?
When we first heard from Ruby asking us to help Casa Ruby with the strategic plan, we were excited because we look for organizations to help in the community, and frankly, I'd been looking for a long time for a transgender organization for our students and for the Law Center to get involved with. But what we didn't know until we got in a room with Ruby was how incredibly inspiring she was. And sure, I think we contributed to Casa Ruby, but the reality is that Ruby inspired a group of law students to go out in the world and be agents for change beyond this community. And that's the amazing impact that I know you know she has. And one of the things I'm incredibly proud of is the 3 students who did this work, Jessica and Michelle and Jason, all of whom have graduated and have moved to other states, have said that this was a life-changing experience for them. And the power goes on. It's moved beyond DC. And Jessie, actually, one of the students, has accepted a job as the executive director of a brand new organization in Massachusetts, helping transgender asylum applicants in the US. And we're really proud of her. So it's been an honor and a privilege to help, and I hope that we continue to have opportunities to do so. Thanks, all of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Investment. Now we're going to just give our last award of the evening. It's actually 2 of them. And I'm going to start with one who is not here. This year, I actually decided that we will have 2 special awards that go beyond, and it's to recognize those people that do not wear the official hats. It is 2 of our clients. The first one is a gay man from Honduras who walked into Casa Ruby one day, mentally disturbed and sad. And there were several issues. One of them was not having a green card, not being documented in the country. And thanks to one of our partnerships that we had, I was able to connect him with one of our pro bono lawyers. And he began a process of getting his green card. But during that time, he had to relive his life in Honduras. And he ended up in the emergency room a couple of times, suicidal. Because the pain of remembering his life in a country that he no longer lives was too much. And I remember one time he went to PG Hospital, and a doctor at PG Hospital told him, "You should not be here because you don't you're not from the United States and you have a chronic disease that is the result for being gay. And we're in the process of suing that hospital. But more than anything, Hazel kept coming to our support groups on Wednesdays. Hey, baby. And Hazel called me about 3 weeks ago to tell me that his political asylum application had been approved. He came to the meeting and shared with the participants of the support group, and he said, Ruby, for the first time I feel like I can go on. And he's now in Florida. And I must say that because I am a survivor of a sexual assault, I know how far it goes to be down. So I wanted to recognize him because he is the essence of what Casa Ruby is. A person who society has disposed, but is able to find accomplishment. My other award is also the perseverance. Perseverance means no matter what life brings you, you keep going. No matter what happens, no matter who tells you that you're ugly, that you're this, that you're that, you keep going. I met this wonderful lady over a year ago. And I met her in a very special circumstance. She had been attacked, and someone had sprayed mace on her face, and it had almost deformed. And she came in, and somehow we clicked. She belonged to Casa Ruby. It was just a match. And she helped me fulfill the dream of diversity and embracement, because she will come to be safe. At one point, she wanted to stay in a women's shelter, and they denied her. But she was becoming empowered, and she said, I'm not going to take this down. And with the help of Andy Bowen, a lawsuit was put in place, so it will not happen to other people. And now that shelter, every time they encounter a trans woman, they really think about it twice. So she really, not only do I love you, girlie, you became what Casa Ruby is all about. You are the example of Casa Ruby. As a woman of color, we have to have thicker skin. We really have to have thicker skin, because there are so many punches out there. There are sometimes bullets that go through our skin and don't kill us, but we have to be strong. And you, girlie, have done everything that I ever dreamed of. Not only you challenge when people said no. The whole summer I loved seeing you change your nail color. And at a time when you didn't want to wear the makeup, and you will come dressing up and being yourself and showing us what beauty really is. Even though sometimes your jeans were too tight and your skirts were just too short, you taught me and our Casa Ruby clients that we are who we say we are. And we are everyone's home, no matter whether you are Hispanic, African American, Caucasian, it doesn't matter. For that reason, and for the love you give all of us, I present you the Ruby CORADO Perseverance Award, Lakeisha Washington. Come here. A trans woman who is married. She's married and she is fabulous. I couldn't dream of anything bigger. I really couldn't. You taught me how to be a big sister. You taught me a lot. What you taught me the most is that when I felt like going home and giving up, which there were very few times of that, you taught me that when people said no to me, to Ruby, you can't say no to me, but they do. They do a lot of times. You taught me to be strong because every other day I know I can see you, and you are Casa Ruby. I love you, baby. She even wore her heels today, so I just want to say as we close, we have a special guest here because this is also a fundraiser. I want to thank all of our sponsors because thanks to you, we raised almost $10,000 this evening. Not only we're making an investment every day that we embrace trans people, gender queer, gender non-conforming, gay, lesbian, and bisexual people, but you're also investing in the infrastructure of an agency that began with zero government funding, and I kept saying no government funding, no government funding, and now we're about to have $160,000 worth of government funding, so I can't say that anymore. But I will say thank you. There's someone that I met a couple of years ago, and it was a very interesting meeting. Mayor Gray had a town hall, and one of our supporters, Roxana Velasquez, said, Ruby, you have to go to this town hall, and you have to bring as many LGBT people as you can, and you have to sit in our table, and you have to do this. And I worked for a week, and I took a lot of people on a Saturday at 7 in the morning. We were there, and we ended up at her table. And I'm used to people that when we sit at their table, they walk away and they move, or they frown, or they simply walk away. Well, this lady did not walk away. I think she wanted to really know about us. And I felt the embracement, in which I very few times feel. And we ended up the day having fun. I got to know her before she was appointed the director of the Human Rights Commission in DC. And I want to say thank you, Monica, for being our first all year round sponsor, because you were one of our first ones. I also want to thank the Human Rights Commission. You know, for many years, and there were times when I actually picketed the Human Rights Commission. But I will tell you one thing. When I met this individual, who actually now I can call her Facebook anytime, and I don't know, I wasn't even thinking about, I Facebooked him a message, and I said, hey Dan, do you think you guys can sponsor our event? And this is when I was in the middle of a shooting and all kinds of things. And he said, you kidding? Of course. And they also became an all-year sponsor, which is a little bit more money than most. And I want to say not only the fact that the donation came in really good, I want to say thank you because you said something to me that now makes me feel better than this event. And you said, Ruby, I have to be there. I have to be, because I have to support this transgender organization. You know what that means to me and to all of us. And to each and every one of you that are here, because you could be somewhere else, Jim, to David Mariner, who I love you so much, and you know how much you and I have been going through. I also have to thank Paul Marengo, because we never worked together, but this is our first event. And to everyone, to my staff, please come to the staff. I want to thank you because all of us are making an investment. And an investment that has not happened before in our city. I want to thank someone who invested ink. And I do want to read this letter. Because, you know, we have, as an organization, been embraced a lot by political officials. So when they talk about the mayor coming and all, I feel like, okay, you know, we've done that. But it means a lot. It really means a lot. It means a lot to have a room full of people, because in other parts of the country, people do not get that recognition. So I am going to close this, not being political, but maybe I am, with a letter of congratulations from Mariel Bowser. She walked in today. I was shocked. I was shocked because we had not invited her. And you see, that speaks a lot. Because we have invited lots of other people that never showed up. And we didn't invite her. So this really means to me. On behalf of the residents of Ward 4, I extend very heartily congratulations to Casa Ruby on the occasion of your 2nd year anniversary. Casa Ruby's doors has been open for business for 2 years now. But we all know that Ruby CORADO has been fighting and advocating for her clients, her friends in the transgender community for close to 2 decades. And in only 2 years, Casa Ruby has seen its profile rise, not just locally here in the District of Columbia, but nationally as well. The district transgender community has a true home in Casa Ruby, and a true friend, sister, mother, and leader in you. Ruby, keep up, I don't want to cry. Keep up the excellent work that is so vital to DC's LGBT community. And once again, congratulations on your 2nd year anniversary. I am so proud of all of that Casa Ruby has accomplished and look forward to celebrating many more anniversaries and accomplishments with you. Sincerely yours, Mariel Bowser, Ward 4 Council Member. This is big, y'all. I just want to say before we go, because my shoes are killing me, there were many times that I wanted to just go home and scream. Because in addition to being an activist, a leader, you know, that is where I'm strong. I'm very strong. Because I talked about how we trans women of color have thick skin. Mine is really thick. But my heart is very weak. I have cried a lot. I cried when, you know, my husband-to-be said that he wanted to marry me. And I told one person in secret, and I got congratulations from a lot of people later. I want to thank you. Many years ago, I used to do support groups in the parks. I used to do support groups in the clubs, in the after-hour places. That is where I began almost 20 years ago. In the parks, in Peachtree Beach, I had a lot of support groups under the bridges in DuPont Circle. I slept in the parks because I wanted to build a community of trans people that knew that I was there. Today, I got a phone call from the city paper a couple of days ago from the chief editor. And she said to me, Ruby, I know about your work and I've been following you. I just have a question for you. Why do you keep doing this? Really? because she also follows me on Facebook. She said, do you sleep? I'm like, yeah, I sleep. She said, tell me, why do you keep doing this? And I said to her, I keep doing this because this is what I loved. And many years ago, I used to be afraid because I used to say, well, how many people are going to show up? And I stopped being afraid because there will always be more than one person. Always. And even in the midst of me coming out of the hospital with a lot of anxiety and a lot of medication, and I would still hold the support groups at Alpha Drugs, and I used to be afraid, is anyone going to show up? So I told Jenny Rogers at the city paper, I show up because people make me show up. Sometimes my husband-to-be takes the phone away from me because I have to keep doing it. I love doing this, and if you think that I've given a lot, I will tell you one thing. For someone who spent a lot of time, almost 3 years, locked in her room, afraid to walk out of the door because I was going to be attacked. For someone who was on heavy medications, at home, watching 48 Hours, the whole day, watching all of the talk shows, because I couldn't sleep, I was so afraid. My roommate, Jackie, is here. And when I left the hospital the last time, we crossed paths on the street. And she said, Ruby, are you now going to open Casa Ruby? And I said, yes. So we're celebrating 2 years because all of you are here. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for giving me a purpose and a reason to keep going. Have a good evening. And we're ready to go because we're overdue.